Have you ever had those moments where you have to stop and ask yourself, what the heck just happened? Like you're traveling along life, doing what you need to be doing, and then out of the blue, something completely sideswipes you. Well, last week, that's exactly what happened to me. And in this week's episode, I'm going to share with you some personal life experiences that could have thrown me off balance or derailed my day completely. And I'm going to share with you the techniques that I used to keep myself centered and balanced so I could respond to what happened rather than react. It's a powerful episode, so let's get into it. If there was a guarantee that you could create your dream life, a life that truly mattered to you, would you want it? My name is Terriane Palmer-Peacock, and I'm delighted to welcome you to the One Person Podcast. I have a belief that one person can make a difference in the world. That person is you. It's me. When we show up as the best version of ourselves, when we create and live our dream lives, we make a positive impact on ourselves and those around us. So if simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies, tools and tips on how to do that inspires you, then you are in the right place, my friend. So let's get started. If you follow me on any of my socials or have listened to some of my earlier podcasts, you'll know I'm an amateur athlete. So my sport of choice at the moment is outrigger canoe paddling, where I paddle both single craft and in a six-man canoe. Now last month we had the Australian national titles, and I was fortunate to achieve all my goals and win 4 medals out of the 4 races I competed in, which included 2 gold medals. You can tell I'm still proud about that, right? One of the 2 races I was super proud of, though, was our long course or 18-kilometre women's race. Now, this particular race has fierce competition, and in order for us to do well, we really needed to up our training in the lead up to the event. Now, we're just a small local club, and all of the women in our club come from a huge variety of backgrounds. Like, we're all mums. Some of us are solo business owners. One has 2 very young boys. Another one has only just come back to training after years off being a mum to her now teenage son. So there was a lot of work that needed to be done if we wanted to seriously compete at a national event. Now, the thing is, we had 6 ordinary women committed to the cause and willing to do the work in the 6 to 8 weeks prior to the event. Now, that meant organising additional training sessions to our normal club sessions, as well as whatever we could do on our own in between training. Now, it wasn't easy, especially since one of our crew worked shift work, so a lot of our training couldn't be structured. In other words, every week was different times and days depending on her roster. But the key here is that we were all committed to each other and said we would do whatever we had to make it work. Now, we worked as a tightly knit team so that by the time the race day came about, we were as ready as we were ever going to be. We had our goal and vision of what we wanted to achieve, but we were also holding it with soft hands. Now, what that means is the journey had been awesome, and on race day, we were going to give it everything we had. But if we came up short, it didn't really matter because the journey was worth the effort and time, and the camaraderie and the bond that we had built as a crew was worth way more than any medal could ever mean to us. Now, okay, if I'm being totally honest, soft hands is one thing that I do absolutely agree with. But I personally also had the attitude and expectation that we would be standing on the podium. And to quote Napoleon Bonaparte, now he's not a very nice man, by the way, but I do like his quote, "I see only the objective, all obstacles must give way." And that's kind of how I think about my goals, which is probably also why I pretty much achieve all of them eventually. So anyway, you get the bond we had created, and we came off the water at the end of our race at Nationals, so proud of our efforts, and got a bronze medal to boot. Now, after Nationals, there's often a down period, kind of like what I imagine would be like coming off a high of drugs or something like that. Now, I've never taken drugs, so I actually have no reference of what that feels like, but according to all the movies I've watched, I imagine it to be kind of similar. And it's that feeling of where, I don't know, all of a sudden the tension or the intensity of training and the amount of energy that you put into focusing on what you need to do improve is suddenly gone. 1 minute your life is totally focused. It's got alarm clocks. You're focusing on your nutrition, your training, making sure you're getting enough sleep, your training, making sure you get enough recovery, your training. And then all of a sudden, there's nothing. You're done. Goal achieved. You don't have to get out of bed in the dark and cold. You don't have to eat the right foods to fuel properly for your next training session. You don't have to get to bed early enough to make sure you can get up early enough in the morning to go again. It's done. So while I experienced a little bit of that, I've got to say, as a crew, we did decide a couple of weeks later, once we had a little bit of downtime, to enter a 30-kilometre race just to give us something extra to aim for and to continue training for. Now, we had the core of our crew keen to race on the distance and a couple of other paddlers willing to jump in and fill their seats from other clubs. So, training was back on. So far, so good. Now, I'm going to fast forward to last week. One of our paddlers, due to a few politics in our club and for her own reasons, decided to start paddling with another women's crew, and it just happens to be the women's crew who took line on us at Nationals. They're a phenomenal group of women and phenomenal racers. Now, I don't have an issue with her wanting to paddle with some of the best women paddlers in Australia. In fact, I think we need to celebrate and support excellence, not pull it down like Australians are known for with the term tall poppy syndrome. So I did ask her to make sure she lets me know if she's going to jump ships and join the other club or join the other crew, to make sure she lets us know sooner rather than later. Now, she's also our steerer in our crew, which meant that if she left, I either had to swap from being a paddler and become a steerer again, or we had to find another steerer for our crew. Now, I won't lie. I was super disappointed with the feeling that we potentially were going to lose her because she brought an expertise and fire to our crew that we had been missing up until she joined. Now, a series of other incidents happened over the next week, including the marathon event we were training for being cancelled due to, unfortunately, politics in our sport. Really disappointing. Now, we're not a group of girls to give up, so we decided to keep training and look at other alternative races around Australia or abroad that we could race in. However, that day I got a phone call from one of the other team members showing me a newsletter from the competition welcoming a new steerer into their club, our steerer. So to say I was disappointed that she hadn't mentioned anything to me, especially since we'd been messaging back and forward every day for the past 2 weeks, was an understatement. Now, we had training that night, so I wanted to get clear on what her intentions were moving forward. In all her messages to me, she acted as if nothing had changed. So that night, I gave her every opportunity to tell the crew what her intentions were, but she said nothing. So as we set off on our training paddle, to be honest, I was chewing a wasp, so they say, and I did need to do my pink blanket technique on myself. Now, before I share the pink blanket technique, I want to ask you a powerful question. How did your 2023 turn out for you? And how is your 2024 shaping up now? Are you on track to achieve your goals, or are you falling short? And what is preventing you from having everything you want in your life right now? Just think about it for a moment. Is it the relentless focus on problem solving or putting out fires instead of creating a vision for what you truly want that draws you to it? Is it letting past beliefs dictate your actions so you feel stuck in a cycle of limiting thoughts and restrictive behaviors? Or is it you constantly feel like something is missing in your life? Well, the big question you need to ask yourself is, what is this costing me? What is this costing me to not resolve it and continue doing what I've always done? Because when you add that up, the money, the health, the relationships, the opportunities, the growth and joy that you might have missed out on, the promotion you didn't get, the business ideas you didn't follow through on, or even the sense of fulfillment that continues to elude you. When you add all that up, is it a cost you are willing to continue paying? You see, encountering resistance is a natural part of any creative process. Focusing on problem solving to move you forward will help you achieve short-term fixes, but will not necessarily lead you to long-term goal achievement. I mean, how are you expected to achieve success and fulfillment in both your business and personal life if you don't have a formula or proven strategy to follow to get you there? Well, introducing the Fulfilment Formula. It's an 8-day challenge designed to teach you the exact strategy I use to achieve results and get my goals without fail. Now, I've created this program from the feedback and conversations I've had with my coaching clients, so it's something I know works, and it works every time for everybody. You see, when you understand at a very profound level that you are not broken, you are not wrong, you are in fact a perfect spiritual being, and your structures and strategies simply need upgrading, you'll discover how easy it is to create a life you love in just 8 days. Now, because this program is the first time I'm releasing it in this format, I'm doing something super special. I'm only going to be offering it to 10 people, and it's going to be offered at half price. It's going to be super affordable that no matter what your situation is right now, I promise you, you'll be able to join. And because you're listening to this podcast, you are first to know about it. All you have to do is shoot me an email to TAPP, that's TAPP, at terrianepalmer.com, and tell me why you want one of those 10 places. Now, if you're a good fit for the program, I'll shoot you back some more information and you can decide if it's something that you want to continue doing. Now, the program is both online and live, and we're aiming to kick off in the first week of July so you can start getting results in your next 90 days. No matter what has happened in the past 6 months, your next 6 months are guaranteed to be spectacular. Now, there's no obligation. All you need to do is shoot me an email to TAPP, T-A-P-P, at terrianepalmer.com and tell me why you want to be a part of this VIP group of people, and I'll send you back some information and answer any questions that you may have. Now, I'm also going to put the email in the podcast show notes so you can easily click through as well. All right, let's get back into the episode. The pink blanket technique. What is it? Well, it's something that can be used when you're in a group environment and one or more people are not in a positive state. So what the whole idea, or should I say the idea behind this whole pink blanket technique, is that it insulates that person's negative feelings from impacting you. Now, for me, I used the pink blanket technique on myself. I was the one chewing the wasp, and I didn't want that to go through the rest of the crew. So I put the pink blanket around myself. Now, the technique is as simple as this. It's a visualization technique. Now, some people I have shared this with have said, why is it pink blanket? Why is it this? Why is it that? You can make it whatever you like. But the whole idea for me is I actually had a girlfriend who had this really fluffy pink blanket that was super cozy, super warm, and it was just one of those things that whenever it got a little bit cold or a little bit chilly, you just wanted to snuggle up in it. So the idea is you visualize a pink blanket or whatever type of blanket you want to choose, and you imagine yourself wrapping that blanket around that person. So for example, there have been days where I've paddled in a crew or I've worked with a group of people in my business, and one of them has been really nasty, or one of them has been just really foul, in that foul type of mood. So what I do is I just imagine myself grabbing this pink blanket and wrapping it around them. And what it invariably does, in fact, almost every time I've done this on another person, not only have we been insulated from any of their negativity, as in it doesn't affect us, but they have come out of the meeting or they have come out of our training session perfectly balanced and in a really good space. It's like that cuddly, warm blanket that you wrap them around with, even though it's only energetically, just makes them feel a little bit more loved, a little bit more comfortable, and a little bit more, I suppose, snuggly in where they're at and what they're doing. So for me, on this particular night, it wasn't anybody else in the boat that I wanted to wrap up in the pink blanket. It was me I wanted to wrap up in the pink blanket to hopefully get me back to balance and or protect the rest of my crew from any of the wasp chewing I was doing regarding our steerer. Anyway, so when I got off the water, I've got to say, the pink blanket worked, but there were still a couple of things that I was a bit grouchy about. So when the steerer, this one person, yelled at me that she wanted an answer about our next training session, I was unable to give her a concrete answer. Now, this was about 7:30 p.m. at night after our training session. Now, I go home from training, I cook dinner, I get everyone sorted in the family, and then I sit down and I check my final messages before going to bed. And at 9:30 p.m. that night, I saw I had a series of messages in my inbox. And what I discovered was she had organised a training session at a different club with the crew and had excluded me from the team. She had replaced me with another paddler. Now, I actually couldn't believe what I was reading. After all the sacrifices we had made to accommodate her in her shift work, all the conversations her and I had had, and all the conversations we'd had as a team about being one team and one crew, all in it together, they dissolved in an instant. And quite frankly, I was a little bit heartbroken. Now, I'm going to leave that story there and fast forward to this week, where another series of instances happened that could have seriously derailed me. Now, the politics I was referring to earlier has to do with some of the men in our club, including our head coach, whom we have battled this entire year with. Now, part of the issue from our perspective, I get there's always two sides to a story, by the way, is that they've not been supportive of the women's desires or our desires to train at the level that we wanted to train at. They did not have and were not able to get a crew of men together to train at the same intensity with the same level of commitment we did. And the team selections in the lead up to the Nationals were less than optimal. Anyway, I'm on the coaching committee as well as the selection committee for the club. And without any warning or conversation or notification, on Monday I received a series of messages early in the morning removing me from the committee. Now, about an hour after receiving those messages, that same crew member that I spoke about last week, our woman steerer, out of the blue, made an early morning accusation that attacked my character and questioned my commitment to our team and our crew. Boy, what a week or couple of weeks. Now, why am I sharing all of this drama with you? For two reasons. Even when you have your stuff together, things happen. Life happens. Now, I personally don't subscribe to the theories that life is meant to be easy, or the opposite of that, life has got to be hard work. I think both are inaccurate statements. Life is as easy as you decide it to be, and to get the things you want, you have to take action, and sometimes that action will seem like it's hard work because in some instances, that's just the price you have to pay to get what you want. Now, I'm going to park this story for a little bit longer and share a little Goggins with you. Now, did you know David Goggins, or specifically the word Goggins, is now both a noun as in his name, and it's considered a verb? I found that quite fascinating. Anyway, I was watching this video by Dr. Andrew Huberman interviewing David Goggins, and they were talking about willpower. In fact, I might just have to do an episode on this one day. Anyway, in your brain, you have an anterior mid-cingulate cortex. In fact, you have one on the right hemisphere and one on the left hemisphere. So you have two. Now, through extensive studies and research, they believe this part of the brain is responsible or is the seat of your willpower. Now, how do you strengthen or increase your willpower? Well, studies show that the anterior mid-cingulate cortex, in fact, I'm going to call that AMC for short from now on, it grows bigger when you do something that scares you or challenges you or makes you feel uncomfortable. So, for example, let's say you hate cold water and you jump into an ice bath. Chances are your AMC will increase in size. Now, if you can't swim and you jump into an ice bath and put your head underwater, chances are your AMC will increase in size. You are doing something you don't want to do. You are challenging yourself. Now, if you are on a diet and you resist eating that chocolate bar or drinking that soda drink, you are challenging yourself and therefore increasing your AMC. Now, what they found was people who lived a long life had a good-sized AMC. The AMC was smaller in people who were obese, but grew larger when they lost weight. It was bigger in athletes and people who saw themselves as the type of person who was constantly challenging themselves and overcoming those challenges. Now, what I found interesting though was if the challenge was a challenge on the first time attempted, but not the second, there was no change to the AMC. So for example, if the person who didn't like the cold did an ice bath on day 1 and then again on day 2 and eventually found that they enjoyed the process, the AMC would not grow because it was no longer something they did not want to do. And to quote addictions, there is a cure, Problem is, it only works one day at a time. It's the I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway that grows this area of your brain or your willpower. Now, to quote Goggins, the biggest question people say to me is, I feel like I'm missing something. Now, mind my language as I quote Goggins here. For me, I don't feel like I'm missing shit. You find the missing it in the suck. You find it repeatedly in the suck. And you find out who you are in the suck. Now, I'm not sure I fully subscribe to the suck theory he's referring to, but I do agree that in the suck you do discover your true power, or you uncover more of who you are and what you're capable of. Now, I suffer from vertigo, but that has not stopped me from jumping out of a perfectly good aeroplane or bungee jumping off the Nevis Bridge in Queenstown, New Zealand, the highest bungee jump in the world. In fact, the skydive I did for my 40th birthday was one of the most blissful and memorable moments of my entire life. Now, when I walked the Sydney Oxfam 100k trail walk overnight in pouring rain and lightning with a strained hip flexor, I found inner strength, grit, and a level of focus I never knew I had. So I get what Goggins is saying. Getting out of our comfort zones isn't just necessary for growth, it's essential. Doing things you don't want to do, but doing them anyway, helps strengthen your willpower. And that's certainly what I needed when I received that barrage of messages on Monday morning. I needed willpower to remember who I was. I needed willpower to own my power and not give it away. I needed willpower to not react to the messages in my inbox, but instead contemplate them and sit with them. And one of the great things about that time was not one, but two of the women in my crew messaged me privately to check in with me and make sure I was okay. One of them actually called me and was a great sounding board for me to test my thoughts out. And this week, she has definitely been my one person. You see, one of the detriments of personal development and spiritual growth, especially if you've spent a lot of time in the deep end like I have, is that you are always wrong. If something happened that you don't like, it's your fault. You created it or you attracted it into your life. Now, that premise, whilst it's meant to help you increase your awareness, over time can eventually be very self-defeating and disempowering. It can put you in a self-defeating downward spiral that eats away at your self-esteem. But that doesn't have to be yours or my experience, because you must remember, you always have choice. And the choice you have is to take the downward spiral path or remember who you are, which is a perfect spiritual being. So for me this week, when I received that barrage of messages, I had two choices: accept what was being presented to me or reject it. Now, I chose to reject the accusations made and empathize with the person's need to project. I chose to focus on my end goal and hold the vision I have of competing in the 2025 Nationals and winning gold in our women's crew. Now, I know it might be a bit messy on the road to get there, but I have no doubt that we will get there. And I also appreciate that life is not a linear path where all you see is rainbows and unicorns along the way. That's not living. It's fantasizing. To achieve your goals, you have to grow into the person who has already achieved what you want. You're not there yet. Otherwise, you would already have what it is that you desire. And you see, that's the whole purpose of life, to grow and evolve into the limitless potential you were born to be. So if life gets messy, if things don't turn out the way you expected, don't give up. Don't change your vision or goal, because know that when you set a goal in motion, you can expect obstacles and challenges to arise. Choose to accept them as part of the natural process and as part of your evolution to get to be the person you want to be, who already has all those things. Well, I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, if you want to find out more about the Fulfillment Program, please shoot me an email to tap@terrianepalmer.com. Tell me why you want to be one of the 10 people that I'm taking through this program live, and I'll shoot you some more information back. So I hope you loved this episode. I hope you found it valuable. Thanks again for hanging out with me, and if you'd be so kind to share this episode with someone you know would find it valuable as well, I would love it. And if you love this podcast, please leave me a review. I do read all of them, and I'd love to hear from you. Right, I'll see you next time for more creative goodness. Bye for now.